Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello. It is Dr. G, and I hope that you are having a fabulous weekend. And if you're listening to this the day that it drops, which is usually Sundays at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, then fabulous. Welcome. If you're listening after the fact, thank you for listening and for sharing the podcast and for subscribing and leaving positive comments, because all of that action cumulatively has allowed for the show to be doing amazingly well. And I'm very grateful for that. So the first thing is, check it out. We are literally at the cusp of the 13,000 download milestone. We are like literally knocking at the door of this particular milestone. And I know, I have every confidence that this episode is going to be the episode that is going to push us over. So I am thanking you ahead of time, because I am confident that you're going to help us to get there. So get to sharing, get to subscribing, and get to commenting so that we can push through and really make a difference on that, so that more people can hear all about how they can face their fears and emerge victoriously, because that is the crux of what we are doing here, and that is the importance of this work. So the other thing I wanted to tell you is, so super excited about that milestone, super excited about all of the love that you have shown the podcast over the little bit that we have been together. And I am also very excited because something pretty incredible is happening in the podcasting world. So if you are contemplating doing a podcast, if you have a message that you'd like to amplify, if you have been thinking about how you can reach your tribe and you have been kind of hesitant, or you just didn't know what to do, or you just were in a place where you couldn't take steps forward, I have mentioned this before, but there are several options at this point that I personally can offer you. And the first option is to take the podcasting launch course. And so that is literally a facilitated course where you and I will get together and we will have a session. We have essentially a 6-week session that is going to be comprised of items where you're going to be doing some self-study. There are going to be some group coaching sessions, and then there is the mastermind, which is where we get together in a Facebook group and we literally exchange ideas and make it happen so that your show is going to be amazing. So that first iteration just ended, and the next one is coming up, and the waiting list for the next course is filling up fast. I'm just overwhelmed with joy. Just every single time I look, I see that there is a new name that's added, and that means that there is going to be a new podcast that's going to be released, and that is going to be encouraging the person whose name is on that list tribe. And their voice is going to get amplified, and great things are going to happen as a consequence. Okay, so that is the podcasting launch course. So that is if you would like to go through with us with the 6 weeks and you'd like to learn the nuts and bolts of podcasting and you'd like to go through it yourself, DIY, with some coaching. Now, there is also the Done For You podcasting, which is where you can literally get your show up and running, and all you have to do is provide us with 5 episodes, the audio for 5 episodes, and then we'll do the rest. We'll do the show notes, the show art, the logo, the getting you on the media platforms, getting you on the distribution listening platforms, all the stuff that you need in order to get your show launched with your 5 episodes, we will be doing that for you. All you have to do is give us the 5 episodes audio. Boom, done. And if you already have a podcast and you're busy and you just want to focus on content creation, you don't want to have to deal with editing and producing and all of that awesome stuff, then you can offload that and just get the monthly subscription and basically, again, just produce the audio. So those are the things, these are the services that Fearless Freedom offers, right? And I'm very excited to be doing this because, again, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone by doing this because I'm a doctor. I'm not a tech geek, right? But I love podcasting and I've learned so much over the last couple of years doing it that I just feel like this is a great way to give back to you as the tribe because you have said that this is something that you are interested in. And so I created it. So boom, you have the facilitated course, you have the done for you launch, you have the done for you subscription, monthly subscription. All right, so I have to keep mentioning this, and I know you probably are like, again, Dr. G, again? Yes, again. I'm going to mention this because I am just so proud, so happy, so encouraged by the fact that 2 of the graduates of the most recent podcasting launch course have shows that are killer, okay? Pure fire. So we have the 2 shows that I keep mentioning, and I'm still waiting for Dr. B to push out her shows so I can start promoting her as well. So we have The Drama-Free Workplace with Patty Perez. Gotta check that out. Amazing show. Great content. She brings a nice Latina flavor to it. She's an incredibly smart woman. She's a lawyer. She's a mom. She is phenomenal. And then we have Pivot and Bloom, which is with Dr. Mila. And she talks about wellness and, she gets deep talking about issues that we have, our mindset. Amazing. Another show that's pure fire that you definitely need to check out. So I would love it if you would, while you're in your space and you are giving love to this show and helping it to be heard by more ears, that you would also do the same for both Pivot and Bloom and the Drama-Free Workplace with Patty Perez. Would love that. Thank you well in advance. Okay, so now the big news in podcasting. So if you have a podcast, if you're thinking about a podcast, if you're going to work with me or you're going to work with someone else, that's fine. But just imagine this. There is a platform, and I probably am not pronouncing it correctly, but it's spelled Gaana. And I say Ghana or Gaana or Guyana. And it is one of the top 5 largest streaming services in the world. Okay? I said the world. Check this out. Over twice the audience size of Pandora. Okay, so massive. And it is the largest music streaming service in India. And that means that they serve over 150 million active monthly users. So I saw that and I was like, what? Because I was very grateful that the email came from Rob W. from Libsyn and was basically informing me about this. And I said, what? I definitely want to get Fearless Freedom with Dr. G out there. I want more ears to listen to this. I want more people facing their fears and emerging victoriously. So I went ahead and signed up to have Guyana as a destination for the show. And if you have a show, I suggest that you do the same. Now, I don't know how you would do it external to the Libsyn platform because that's the one that I currently utilize. And so I can only tell you that you can go ahead and just add it as a destination within Libsyn. So that's the one big news. Okay, so the second big news, as if that was not enough, 150 million potential new listeners. Oh my goodness, absolutely amazing. The next one is Amazon Music and Audible is about to launch their podcast thing, like their podcast stream. Like they're about to have podcasts on their platform. What? Like literally, you can say, Alexa, I want to hear Fearless Freedom with Dr. G, and boom, Amazon Music is going to play the podcast. Now, if you know how intense and how amazing that is, and you are at a point where you're thinking about starting your podcast, or you've already started your podcast and you are ready to get in the mix, this is a great time, because now you're going to have the opportunity to reach even more ears. So they haven't announced when they're going to be launching yet. It's going to be a global launch, obviously. And you better believe that I was grateful to get that email from Rob Walsh from Libsyn about this. And you better believe that Dr. G signed up the podcast to be hopefully included in the launch. So there you have it. So if you have a show and you have no home for your show and you're looking for a home, definitely check out Libsyn. If you want to support this show while you are getting your show onto Libsyn, you can utilize the affiliate code, which is capital D, R as in Robert, D as in dog, R as in Robert, G as in great. And that would help us out because you'd be saving, you'd get a month free, and you'd also be helping out the show. So there. So that's it. Exciting announcements and lots of goodness. And so I just want to say thank you once again for being awesome. And thank you so much for tuning in week after week and hearing all of the great pearls and listening to the stories of the guests that are on this show. I tell you that I'm learning a lot every single time I interview someone. I learn so much, and I just know that you are doing the same. And so I'm very grateful to be in a space and a place where I'm able to share this time with you. So without any further ado, I would like to have you listen to this week's guest, who is Dr. Supriya Rao. Okay, so Dr. Supriya Rao is an amazing woman, and she's going to tell you all about who she is and what she is up to. Have a listen. Hello, Fearless Freedom family. Dr. G is here again. And this week we have the awesome, the amazing, the fantastic, the superb Supriya Rao. Supriya, you want to tell the Fearless Freedom Tribe all about yourself and what you're up to?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show today. Appreciate it. So my name is Supriya Rao. I am a triple board certified physician in internal medicine, gastroenterology, and obesity medicine. And I'm currently a partner at my practice, my GI practice. It's called Integrated Gastroenterology Consultants, and it's located outside of Boston. And I'm also the medical director for weight loss at Lowell General Hospital, which is a hospital that I work at and have privileges at. And my interests lie in, health and wellness, gut motility, kind of the gut microbiome, inflammatory bowel disease, and just kind of overall prevention of chronic diseases.
Wow. Did you guys hear that? She said she was triple boarded. Okay. So for those of you who are not intimately familiar with the processes within the House of Medicine, that is huge, okay? Because that means that she has met all the qualifications for each one of those items, each specialty. She's met all the qualifications and crushed the board exam and have the designation of being board certified. So she has that in 3 areas. That is very, very impressive. So I want you to understand that, because that may have gone over a little bit. I don't want it to go over. I want it to be clear that she's like the bomb, okay? So just so you know.
Thanks so much. I took my last one in February, the obesity boards in February, and my husband was helping me out quite a bit after, to let me study and things like that. And he's like, okay, no more board exams for a while, please, because we have two small kids. And he's like, I need help.
Ooh, yes.
So
Wow. Okay. And how old are they?
my daughter is 6.5 and my son is almost 5.
Oh,
So
nice. Those are good ages.
distance learning was interesting for the last few months.
Yeah. I'm sure. It's always kind of interesting to talk to colleagues and just to talk to parents in general who have had that experience because, for us, it's a little bit different because we were already homeschooling. So it was not as big an adjustment, but I can totally see how it would be a big adjustment because for us, we planned on the thing. And so we had an opportunity to ramp up with this situation. There was no warning. There was no preparation. There was nothing. It was just like, sink or swim, here you go.
Pretty much.
So, but the kids are troopers, and they are very resilient. So I'm sure they did fine. And plus they're 6,
fine.
They're 5 and 6. So it's like, I don't know, what's kindergarten and first grade? Like, what are they really learning?
Pretty much. That's pretty much what it was. And so after a while, they would get their work done, but in the afternoons, like, go play, go outside and play, have a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's what kids need anyway.
Yeah.
So that worked out. Awesome. All right. So you got to tell us. So before the show, I just want to give you guys a little bit of backstory. I was just telling Supriya that we have a couple connections, right? So she was saying that, she went to Duke Medical School, and I was saying that I did my residency at Duke. So, the little Duke connection. And
we overlapped by a year.
And then we overlapped by a year. And of course, unfortunately, we didn't know each other at the time because, we were not in the same area, same department. But that is just so cool. And how you went to a technical undergrad, and so did I. So you went to the undergrad, right? Which is what, MIT, if you're doing anything technical, so MIT, same breath, Caltech, and then I went to RPI, which is also a very technical school, engineering based. So that was cool. Another connection.
Very much so.
You have to tell us. So the usual pathway to medicine, right, is you go to a school, usually liberal arts school, and then you do all the things, and then you go to medical school.
Right.
I don't really know a whole lot of people who go to technical school. And then I guess you have to tell us like what you majored in, because that might play a role. And so I don't know a whole lot that went to a technical type of college, and then went on to do medicine. So you got to tell us what you did at MIT and how did that happen?
Sure. So that's, I guess, where my first fearless moment happened, actually. So when I started college, I had the full intent of doing computer science, IT. I was very much down that path. And at MIT, we had some core classes we had to take, including physics and chemistry and biology. So we had to take those classes anyway. So I was doing those requirements while starting up my statistics and probability and computer classes and other math classes I was taking. And so I kind of went through my freshman year and my sophomore year still on the same path. And then kind of towards the end of sophomore year and beginning of junior year, I was thinking like, I don't really love this. And, I can't see myself doing this. It was pretty much the end of my sophomore year. And I was just really kind of struggling in my mind. I was doing fine in my classes, but I didn't have that passion. Like after graduation, I'm going to find this job and it's going to make me feel super fulfilled for my life. And so I kind of struggled with that between my sophomore and junior year, the summer, thinking about it, kind of talking with my parents and kind of coming to the conclusion that all those science classes that I had to take because of the MIT requirement, I was drawn more to those than I was to my other classes. So I was like, well, what does this mean exactly? I I'd always shunned being a doctor, because it was kind of like a very stereotypical thing. Like if you're like an Indian person, you are either a doctor or an engineer. And I was like, I'm not going to fall into that stereotype. I'm going to be something totally different. And so I was like, okay, let me just start taking some of the bioengineering and biology classes because I found them super interesting. I took this like tissue engineering class, which I thought was really cool. And so then I started getting into it more. I was like, wow, I like this a lot. And so my junior year, I switched majors actually, which for me was terrifying because everybody at that time already kind of was on their track. And some of them were on track even to finish most of their classes by their first semester senior year. And here I was pretty much like switching, midway and having to then pile on courses during a time when most people were kind of taking it easy. And that was really a hard decision for me. I mean, now it doesn't seem that big a deal, but at that time when I was in college, I was like, oh my God, my life is over.
Oh, yes. That angst.
So much angst at that time. And so, yeah, I switched, and I just kind of like, it was really scary, but I talked to a couple of my advisors, and they were like, we think if you do it this way, you'll still be able to graduate on time and do all the things that you need to do. And so I was doing organic chemistry and like, all the different things you need to do for med school requirements. But then I was also taking kind of bioengineering classes as well. And that was really great.
Awesome. Wow, that's a great story. Yeah. So it's like you can pivot even if you think it's on the later side of things. So it turned out though, that even though that was a moment of truth, fearlessness.
Fearlessness. Yeah, definitely. I was so scared about doing it. It was really, really.
I mean, because you're looking at your peers and they're all kind of like, kicking back, throwing their feet up.
Yeah. And I was like a second semester junior taking classes with like some freshmen and sophomores and thinking like, oh my God, like always just second guessing myself, doubting myself about it. And even then, like, even though I had switched majors, I still hadn't really decide, am I going to do a PhD? Am I going to think about pharma? Am I going to, or biotech startups?
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't even decided about medicine at that point yet either. So that was something that I kind of decided during my senior year to explore. Okay. I was like, well, let me just figure this out. So I worked at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston. I volunteered in their neonatal ICU, and they had a program where they were I would be taking pictures of the babies for parents who couldn't make it in all the time, and we'd be sending it to the parents so they could see any kind of developments for their little infants during that time if they were unable to come in. And so once I started getting it, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed this part of it too. So that's kind of went towards my end of senior year is when I decided that I wanted to do medicine.
That's awesome.
Which again was much later than most of my peers. So
you know what? It is all good. You figured it out before you graduated. Because I have friends who didn't even know. Like they went and did whole other careers before they decided that medicine was for them. So hey, that wasn't late at all.
Trust me, like compared to my peers, I felt like I was being so late. But then when I actually got to medical school, I was like, oh, everyone had all these different paths. And I was like, what was I even worrying about most of the time? And I ended up taking a year off after college to work in a lab and kind of get some, other experiences and stuff and take my MCAT and everything because I was, again, behind a little bit. But like I said, once I actually started medical school, like there are people who had, like you said, done other careers or took a few years off or worked somewhere else. And it was just kind of funny to look back and be like, wow, I was stressing about nothing. So
the part that I thought was really hilarious, I just remember, I went to medical school a long time ago. The people who are listening cannot see my face, but if you watch the video, you'll see it. And basically, I remember when I started back in 1997, that, there were a couple of classmates that were with me who literally was one particular classmate who she and her daughter were starting graduate school at the same time. The daughter was in law school and she was in medical school, and she had in a previous life been a computer engineer. So she had a whole career. She had enough of a career that she has a grown child. And then they were both, essentially starting graduate work together. So the paths are different. People were dance majors. People were music majors. Exactly. There's a huge myth that you have to be
I had a
classmate
who was like a professional basketball player, a women's professional basketball player.
Hey, look at that. See, that's amazing. So it was just like very, yeah. So people always think like, oh, you have to be on this particular path. Nope.
Not at all. It's not preordained from when you were 9.
Just gotta take the required classes. That's it. Take the required classes. So no, that's awesome. That's a great story. And then so you overcame that and you put yourself out there, and beautifully so. And then, the path then was very clear. So you went to Duke, you did great there. And then where'd you go for residency?
I did my internal medicine residency at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia.
UPenn, right? And then so now you're at UPenn and you're doing all this stuff. And was there any moments where you felt like, wow, this is a moment where I'm kind of concerned, I'm kind of fearful, maybe there was a transition that was happening, or I don't know. Right. Is there anything there?
Yeah, definitely. So I was trying to figure out if I was going to stay internal medicine or go into a specialty, subspecialty. And so I was actually really enjoying my ICU time. And I was like, oh, wow, pulmonary critical care. It's a really kind of high octane field. And I was really excited about it. And you have to make all these decisions pretty early on in residency. So I had to decide what I was going to do if I didn't want to take off any further time. And having kind of like my parents in the background being, no more extended time, just figure out what you want to do and go for it. And so you have to decide intern year what you want to do, so then you can apply during your second year. And then by the time the beginning of your third year, you match, and then you start continuously after residency. I think the system has changed slightly now, but so basically my intern year, like racking my brain, okay, I have to get this done, stay in, I'm definitely thinking I'm going to do academics, and, I want to go to a really great fellowship. Am I going to do GI? I was also really interested in. I had really great mentors in GI on my rotations. And so it was between GI and pulmonary. And so I did a few more elective courses and was finally able to decide on GI. And then it was just like, GI is pretty competitive, and just trying to make sure that you have all the necessary parts of your application, and just trying to, but again, people arrive to GI fellowship in different ways. Mine was a little bit more routine in that sense, but I'm glad I was able to make that decision, because I honestly couldn't see myself doing anything else now. So, which is good.
That is good. Because, there have been people who have gone all the way to fellowship and had to just do a switcheroo. So that's good. That's good that it worked out. And then it seems like the segue into obesity kind of, it marries with GI.
But GI, it marries quite well. But I have to say the big fearless moment I had was during fellowship, because I had a child during fellowship. And so I was worried, by having a kid, am I going to be, actually I had my daughter right around the time I was interviewing for jobs. And so I was really very, hardcore. I wanted to stay in academics, do research, do the whole thing. Right. I had kind of interviewed at some academic places, but then, one of my program directors sent along my current practice information and said, oh, this practice outside of Boston is might be good for some interview prep and stuff like that. And my husband was actually working at Tufts Medical Center. He's a gastroenterologist as well. Okay. And so I thought, it might be good to stay in Boston, because his job is here, so we both don't have to find a new job. Right. And I had actually gotten an offer from a big academic center, and I was really excited about it. But then I decided to go check this practice out. And upon interviewing there, I just feel like in residency and fellowship, you're very much told that academics is where you should be. And the only good research and the only good patient care is done there. That's what you feel like, right? Is what you're. I know. That's basically everyone kind of hears that and says oh my gosh, I could never work in private practice because it's outside hospital. And so basically, I interviewed at this practice, and I was like, these people are amazing. They're all really well trained, super GI, really
where do you think all the well-trained people go? I'll go to academics.
Exactly. And so you keep hearing this mantra about you must stay in academics. And then at that time I was like, wow, there's a lot out there that you don't even hear about when you go through training, which I thought was really unfortunate, because I feel like trainees don't necessarily get the vast offerings necessarily, and they're told to do one track. I mean, if from the very beginning that you're going to be a basic science researcher and you're going to do all of these R01 grants and everything, that's one thing. But for me, I was more interested in research anyway. And so, I interviewed with this group, and I loved them, and they were offering me ways to build up a program at the hospital. So I'm interested in GI motility. And so I was able to build a motility program and do everything from the ground up without walking into something that was already made.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And so being able to build something sounded really amazing to me. And that's what I always like to get involved in. And so I was nervous about getting out of academics, because everyone's once you get out of academics, you can't go back. And I was just, all of these different things people tell you, and you're just whatever. I think this is right. And I had just had my daughter, and I thought, this job offers me a little bit more flexibility in some ways. And so I just went out on a whim and took it, and it was the best decision I've ever made.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it just, all the things you hear are just so interesting. Yeah. I mean, well, the thing about it is a lot of times what happens is not that we are trying to do this or steer people in any one particular direction, but it happens, right? Because when you're in that lane, you know, and you did your training at an academic center, you've been working at an academic center, and your world is the academic center,
right?
You start to think that there is nothing else outside of that, which
exactly
so not true, because there are many community hospital settings that are community academic in the sense that there's research coming out of them. There are, you know, highly qualified individuals who are working there and serving the patient. So, you know, there's only a finite amount of the quote unquote academic center from the classic sense, but there are a myriad of opportunities out there for us who are not.
I agree. And I think that's the main thing. It's like not telling people to do academics or private practice, but just giving them the different options that are available, and just so that people can really understand and talk to people who have gone through that, whether or not it's even a traditional clinical pathway or not. Maybe they ended up going into industry or, you know, do something different.
Absolutely.
Entrepreneurial type stuff. So I just think it's important to have access to all of those options. So you just know that if something doesn't work out, you're not a failure. It's not the end of the world. You can move to a different lane. So
yes, that's so key, because a lot of people think that if they don't get so at the end of medical school, if they don't get into residency, they think, oh my God, my life is over. But you have a postgraduate degree. Like that's not small potatoes. Like you have a postgraduate degree. Like you can utilize that consulting, you know, that there's so many things that you can utilize it for. And then, you know, you might get to the end of, you know, residency, and then you're like, well, you know, you get a job, you know, you don't like the job. You're thinking, oh my goodness, this is the end of it, because again, this is what I thought I wanted to do, and now I can't do it. But guess what? You have even more options now. Exactly. You now have postgraduate training.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's just, but you know, you can't really blame people for this train of thought, because, you know, in this track, it's very linear. It's literally, okay, you take X amount of classes, you take this test, and then you go to the next phase. Then you take another couple of tests, and then you apply to some places, and then you go to the next phase. And then, you know, so the line, like each time point along the timeline is already predestined. And so, you know, it's training you to not think outside the box. And so you're not going to be thinking like, wait, can I go over here instead? Or can I make a detour here and then come back? Or, you know, how can I do it? Because you even mentioned, you know, there is that whole thought process that if you go out into community and practice, that you cannot go back to the classic academic center, which is so not true.
It's not true.
So not true. Yeah. So, you know, it's like, we just don't think outside the box, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I think I was just so used to like, okay, finishing this task, moving on to the next task. So yeah, like college, you know, med school, residency, fellowship. After fellowship, or like during my last year of fellowship, I was like, okay, wow, this is the first time I can actually sit and think about what is it that I really want? What is it that will be good for my, like, you know, growing family? What will make me happy in the end? And so I never really necessarily thought about that prior decisions regarding the next steps. And so that was a unique thing, and again, scary because you're worried about leaving academics, but for me, it worked out, thankfully.
It worked out beautifully. So that was great. That's great. And then, so tell us so you talked about how, you know, this was a gift, right? You were literally not really even looking, and then it was offered to you, and it turned out to be a perfect match. And then on top of that, you had the golden egg of being able to bring a program on gut motility from the ground up to your place, which is awesome. Right. And so then how did you then find out that you were interested in obesity medicine?
Right. So basically, I started at my job in November of 2014, my current job. And so we kind of built up the motility program in 2015, 2016. And so things were going great. And, I was seeing all those patients, and then we were kind of thinking about doing lower GI motility as well. So we were looking into that. But meanwhile, I had been seeing a lot of patients for fatty liver and basically not giving them the proper tools to help them with weight loss. As we know, fatty liver can lead to cirrhosis, and is now more than Hep C in terms of has overtaken Hep C for needing liver transplant. So it's just become a really big problem. And as we know, the obesity epidemic in this country is still, a major issue. And so I saw all these patients and was not really helping them besides saying, oh, you should just diet and exercise. And it wasn't really giving them proper guidance about what exactly to do. But they had evidence of fat in their liver based on ultrasound, or their liver enzymes were abnormal. And after some, conversations where I realized, I was like, wow, I'm really not giving anybody any real information about how to deal with this. There is a course at Harvard called the Blackburn course in obesity. And so I took that and just learned a lot in the postgrad course, just the conference itself. And that kind of started me on my path and feeling like, okay, this is how I'm going to be able to help some of these people make a change in their life instead of just saying, go diet and exercise. So
wow,
that's where I started.
Wow, that's cool. That's neat how it like all the dots is kind of connected. It's like, okay, this is like preventative medicine. I have to practice preventative medicine here.
Yeah, exactly. You think about
we just
it.
can't have all these people like progressing to cirrhosis.
Right.
So no,
and then a lot of them, like their hemoglobin A1C was high. It's just like not just
so it's
that.
Multifactorial. It's not even just the
Multifactorial,
liver.
diabetes, high cholesterol, all of these issues, high blood pressure, thyroid disease, all of these things. And they're on 10 different medications, and you're just like, wow, there has to be another way to be able to handle this. Obviously they need to be on those meds right now in order to control those symptoms, but maybe with weight loss and just kind of healthier behaviors, some of that I've been able to take people off their high blood pressure medications because of it. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. Wow. No, that's great. And then, of course, this sounds like this fits nicely into your current practice because you're utilizing that skill set with your current patients. Is that about right?
Yeah. So I would see about like 25 to 30% obesity patients who then obviously have liver disease and actually end up having a lot of other GI issues like acid reflux, abdominal pain anyway. So
okay.
It kind of marries nicely. I think obesity and GI are really well connected in a lot of ways. So I've just, and especially now, I've been doing a lot of telemedicine for the last 3 months because of the pandemic.
Right.
And so I've seen a lot of, just general GI issues, but then a lot of people who have overlap with obesity issues as well. So working with them remotely, hooking them up with nutritionists via telemed or via like televisits as well. And kind of working that way because it's just so important to try and get people to change their habits as young as possible because over time they're just going to have chronic medical problems. So that's my goal.
No, that's great. That's great. And do you do any kind of course, I'm going to be plugging this, but do you do any kind of community outreach type of work? Like, do you create content and put it out there in the community?
Right. So actually, I just joined the board of advisors at the Museum of Science in Boston. And so I'm going to be doing a lot more with childhood obesity, actually, and programs with urban farming. I'm going to be working with the museum. Actually, it just started this week. And so my two major focuses there are going to be working about childhood obesity and education and gardening. So children are really engaged in what they're eating, so they know what to choose when it comes down to it. I think we sell our kids short with food in this country and think that kids' food is only like a chicken nugget or mac and cheese. Or you're really adventurous with food, and introduce it from a young age. Kids get really excited about it, actually. So that's one program, and another one is basically diversity and STEM access to minorities and women. So those are the two programs that I'm going to be kind of pushing and hoping that for community outreach.
Awesome. Yeah, the thing with children and their exploration of their palate is, so I'm not originally from the United States. And so it was a little bit different when I came here and people were talking about chicken nuggets and I was like, what is that? Like, why? Because we were given like real food, like, oh, here's your food.
Right.
This is what the family's eating.
Yeah.
Here's what
This is
you're
what we're
eating.
eating. This is exactly.
There's no special deal for you.
No special food. And I get it. Like, some things are very easy, and, it's, parenting is hard, and it's not trying to shame anybody in any way. But I think that, whatever you're eating, your kids will eat too, if you just, give them that chance. And some kids are really picky, obviously, from the very beginning. And so maybe they only want to eat chicken nuggets. But I think introducing things and reintroducing things over time, I think you'll find that kids are a lot more resilient and adventurous than we normally would think.
Absolutely. Speaking from a mom who has had a kid who only ate 5 things for about 2 years, like the same 5 things every day. But now he eats everything. It was one of those things, like, parenting is hard. And again, and I echo what you say, this is not shaming. Like, when I said that, I wasn't saying that to shame. I basically was just saying that, that can't be the only thing that we provide our children. Right.
Right. Exactly.
If we're making a salad, the kid will eat a salad too. Like, they don't have to not eat the salad. So it's just funny, but having them get involved in the food preparation is so huge, because I think that was one of the things that really helped to sway him into trying new things. And it did take trying one thing like maybe 7 times, maybe more, but it was, you have to take a bite of that thing. You taking a bite, and you're going to have to at least take one bite. Like, that's not,
try it.
Yeah,
try
exactly. It. So you'd be surprised what they like.
No.
I have one child that eats the kale off of the bush out in the garden. Like, she's like, oh, there's kale out there, Mom. Go eat some kale. And she goes and she just picks a piece and she just eats it. So you just never know what they're going to like.
My daughter, we had some parsnips delivered. Like, we'd get this Misfits box, and it has just a bunch of random vegetables, and you don't know what you're going to get. And I had parsnips, and we don't really necessarily eat parsnips specifically. And she's like, what is this? And so I cut them up into like a fry shape and roasted them, and she ate them.
Nice.
And she was like, oh my God, this blew my mind. And she just wants to eat parsnips now. And so I think, it's just, you can make kids eat your vegetables in fun ways, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, no, parsnips have a nice, like, sweet aftertaste. So I think that that's attractive to them.
When you roast them, they have like, exactly.
especially if you put like cumin or what is this other spice? It's kind of like a curried spice, but I forget what it's
like
called.
Coriander.
Coriander, yes.
Yeah.
If you put cumin or coriander on it, oh my God, it's so good. It's amazing.
Salt and pepper, and you're there.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Oh my, I'm starting to get hungry now. Wow. What a great conversation. And so you talked about the partnerships that you're currently establishing with the community and the projects that you're getting started. Do you have a website, or is there something that you'd like to share with the audience that they can support or they can reach out to you through?
Sure. Yep. So basically, I'm on Instagram right now. My handle is GutsyGirlMD. And so you can find me there for content regarding, GI, obesity topics, just general health and wellness as well. So that's kind of where my main thing is now. My husband and I are actually going to be starting a podcast in the next couple months. Yes.
That always makes me so happy.
Yeah. Just because he's also a gastroenterologist and he works in the same practice as me. And so, yeah, it's just 2 gastroenterologists, musings on life and kids and parenting and work and all that kind of stuff. So
that sounds like it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully humorous. We both have, we're around poop all day. So, you have to be sensitive with that. So that's coming soon. And you can find more information about that when we start getting it started on my Instagram. But I think we're going to be calling it the Gutsy Life. So that's what
nice. Like it.
So my practice's website is integratedgic.com. And so if you want to find out more about what our practice does and services we offer, I'd say we're pretty unique in that sense that we offer pretty much all the GI services that tertiary care centers do in Boston, but we do it in the community because we've had really great support from our community hospital. Like you said, there are really wonderful community hospitals out there, and I work at a wonderful one, Lowell General, and the GI offerings there are quite extensive. You don't need to necessarily go into Boston because we offer pretty much everything there.
Awesome. Yes, I am Definitely looking out for the Gutsy Life. I hope you guys are going to be too, because it sounds like it's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
Poopity poopity poop.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's just so much you can do with that.
Yes, exactly. There's so much. And our kids think it's hilarious that we're both in GI. So yeah.
Of course. Oh, so you probably have to have them like do like a cameo on the show or something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll get a kick out of that.
Yeah, they will.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. So we have had such a great conversation. I am kind of sad that we have to kind of wrap it up.
I know, it's been wonderful.
But we do have a tradition. We start wrapping things up, and that is the fill in the blanks. Are you ready, Dr. Rao?
Yes, let's hear it.
Awesome. All right. So the first one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I am fearless, I will be able to start any project or any task without worrying about what someone will think about me or worrying about if I'll be able to succeed at it or not. Because I think that if I'm fearless enough about it and I'm really passionate enough about it, then I can figure out a way to make it work.
Sweet. Then the next one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
Fearless freedom means, I think, again, basically being able to pivot in your life if you need to and not be kind of beholden to what society's expectations are of you. And, you know, I think a lot, as we've seen over the last 3 months in medicine, I think a lot of people are starting to kind of think about their job in medicine and wonder, like, is this something, you know, is this all I'm going to do? You know, is this, because I feel like, you know, with practices shutting down or hospital employees just not having as great an experience necessarily, think about other options for them, but being worried about starting. And I think it's just starting something that you could have an interest in is the first step. And that's the biggest step, the biggest hurdle to overcome, because if you don't start it, you'll never do it. So at least start and try. And I think that's giving you kind of that element of fearless freedom.
Absolutely. That is the hardest part, the starting part. And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
My battle cry is, okay, so basically my battle cry is, if you tell me it's impossible, it's going to make me want to work even harder to achieve it. So you tell me something's impossible, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Love it. Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for your time and coming on the show and talking to the tribe. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dr. G. This is a wonderful conversation. I really enjoy your podcast. So thanks so much for having me.
No problem.